Hey guys, welcome back to Bonsai. It's your old buddy Pinky. We are here in the world headquarters of Bonsai Heavy Industries, and we are going to be putting together the short block for our super low buck Hemi project. So let's do it. Okay, so in the last episode, we drilled and tapped the oil sensor hole for a plug. All right. Again, we're using a pipe thread plug so that, because pipe thread plugs are tapered, so it'll go in and get super, super tight and be sealed against oil leaks. It could never vibrate loose, in and fall into the engine, which a standard thread, if you were to use like a big set screw, I've seen people use, just big set screws, headless bolt, and man, that could actually just go right into your motor. So that's stupid. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Okay, so we're going to put the lifters in now. On the lifters, I like to give them, we're going to put oil in this and we're going to roll it all around, make sure everything is good and covered in oil before we actually start it. But with the lifters, because they're up in their bores, I like to give them a little extra shot of oil while I'm putting it together. It's a little bit sloppier, but it makes sure that those bores are really well lubricated when we start this thing up. All right, we got rid of our governor so we can get rid of the governor gear on the crankshaft and knock that off there. There we go. All right, and that we can throw away, or that you can throw at your friends like a ninja. Okay, so there's our crankshaft. Our crankshaft looks pretty crappy, to be honest with you. It had a fair bit of corrosion on it. We tried to knock that off with a wire brush. The journals don't look that bad, but the clutch end of it clearly has gotten super hot. Now, aside from being discolored, it's also probably compromised a little bit in terms of strength. When you really get stuff blue hot like that, it becomes pretty brittle. So we'll see how it lasts. We're going to line up the dot on the crank gear with the dot on the cam gear. Okay, so that goes in there. And oops. Okay, so dot on the crank gear, dot on the cam gear. Lined up. Okay, as we discussed in episode 1, the piston is cached, right? It's no good. We are replacing this Hemi piston, which has a .550 compression height from the wrist pin to the top of the piston. We're replacing that with a regular 212 flat top piston, which has a compression height of .570, okay? Hemi .550, straight valve, or normal .570. And what that's going to do is just going to move the top of the piston 20 thousandths higher in the bore. Okay, so when it gets to the top, it'll be 20 thousandths closer to the head, and then that gives us a nice bump in compression. So that's what we're going to do now. Anytime we put new rings in an engine, we're going to want to check the ring gap clearance. As a general rule of thumb, we want about 3 thousandths of an inch of clearance for every inch of bore diameter. Our bore diameter on a 212 is about 2 3/4 inches, so we want 3 thousandths times about 3. So we're going to really want maybe 9 thousandths clearance. We don't want anything tighter than 7 thousandths. 8, 9 would really be the sweet spot. Okay, so the way we check that is we're going to put the ring down into the bore, just kind of slip it down in there. Careful now, don't scratch anything. So then we're going to use our piston upside down to kind of push it down into the bore and put it in there squarely. Okay? Then we take our feeler gauges and let's see, let's measure how tight our gap is. Yeah, our ring gaps are a little bit sloppy. They're a little loose. We've got 12 thousandths on one, 13 thousandths on the other. You know, again, we'd like to see that number around 8 or 9, but you know, too big is not terrible. We'll just have a little bit more blow-by on the engine. Too little ring gap is a problem. So if they had measured up too tight, we would have to file these to, you know, get our minimum amount of clearance. In this case, we've got our minimum clearance and then some. So we're going to go ahead and slap it together. Looking at the new rings, we've got 2 compression rings and an oil wiper compound ring. The compression rings are different. They're not interchangeable. If you notice, one has like a silver kind of color to it, the other is black. The silver ring, your chromoly ring, is always going to be your top ring, and then the black ring would be below it. You also want to look on the ring for any kind of writing, any kind of lettering. You can see some there. That lettering will always go up, facing up. On the oil rings, I like to come from the bottom up. We want our ring gaps to not be directly above or below each other. So we're going to offset those as much as we can. Good. We're going to oil this. Next up is to assemble the piston to the connecting rod. We're going to smear a little bit of oil in here. And the same thing inside the wrist pin holes on the piston and on our wrist pin itself. We're going to slip all that in there. Take one of our little locking rings. Be careful with these guys, they can take off on you and then you'll be very sad. Click that down so it sits down in a little notch there. Turn it over. Do the same thing on this side. Okay, that's good. All right, we want to oil the bore up pretty good. We don't want this to be dry in here, so we're going to put some oil up in there. Our piston skirt is already oiled. I've already installed my ring compressor. I used a little band clamp, a 2 3/4 inch band clamp works perfectly for this. So we're going to go ahead and slip that down in. Okay, we're going to tap the piston down in. All right, let's shoot a little bit of oil in here. Get the some oil in there already. Same thing with the rod cap. Just want to get that nice and pre-lubed. All right, now we're going to torque it to 140 inch-pounds. Not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. Okay, 140 foot-pounds would be very bad. Tighten both rod bolts, sort of back and forth evenly. You don't want to crank one side down and have the other side loose. All right, and then I come back, just give them a little kiss to 150. At this point, we want to get a sense of how much end play there is to know if we should use a thick gasket or a thin gasket. We have just about none, so we're going to use a thick gasket to start. Alright, once again, a little shot of oil down the cam journal, like the other side. Well, now we've got a whole bunch. All right, put some Loctite on your bolts. Loctite everything on your engine, by the way, like everything except for the spark plug. But everything else, Loctite the crap out of it. These little motors will shake every bolt out of them. They are inherently unbalanced. Okay, so we're going to tighten the side cover bolts down in a crisscross pattern. First to 150 inch-pounds, right guys? Not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. 150, and then we're going to go around again to 205. Right about 10 thousandths. All right, so the bottom end is all put together. Next episode, we are going to throw the head on it and put everything else on it, set the timing, maybe even start it up. So make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate you guys' support. Do me a favor, speaking of support, if you can hit the like button, the subscribe button, leave us a comment. It really helps us in terms of getting our videos placed a little bit higher in search results. So I'd really appreciate it. All right? Thanks, guys.